Hey guys, it's Podge, and this is my first build guide for Delirium League, and it is a self-cast Blade Blast Chieftain. This build has a super fun playstyle and is very satisfying bossing character. It uses Blade Blast to detonate the blades left behind by the physical spell Blade Fall. The build requires nothing to start. It's actually what I league started with in Delirium solo self-found. It has a very high damage output and has some incredible life recovery to help you in those sticky situations. The footage in the background shows the character at just level 80, and while it's not the fastest mapper, it is showing a lot of potential as an incredibly solid boss killer. You can, however, choose to spend some currency to enhance the damage and clear speed even further, however, if you'd like to do so. First, let's take a look at the passive tree. To start, make a Marauder and begin by grabbing the life and armor nodes into Warrior's Blood. Then grab Heart of the Warrior for some early game tankiness. Next, come up and grab the Scion Life Wheel, Constitution, but do not fill it out yet. Come straight up through Shaper into the Witch/Templar area of the tree and grab Elemental Overload as quickly as possible. This makes it so your critical strikes grant you 40% more elemental damage if you've crit in the last 8 seconds, at the cost of no critical strike multiplier. This isn't an issue for us, as we're not investing into critical strikes anyway. Take Mental Rapidity and Quick Recovery, then come up and take Avatar of Fire to convert 50% of your physical damage to fire. Around this time, you'll be able to access your normal Labyrinth and get Namahu's Flames Advance for the other 50% physical to fire conversion. Then come into the Templar area and grab Retribution, Discipline and Training, Holy Dominion, Light of Divinity, and Amplify. Next, come across and grab Heart and Soul, Purity of Flesh, and Explosive Impact for fire damage and area of effect. Next, grab Heart of Flame and Cruel Preparation for fire damage, fire penetration, and life. Now grab Sovereignty for 14% reduced mana reserved. This is massive for us as it allows us to squeeze in an extra aura, which I'll go over later. You should be hitting maps around this time, so from here it's just a case of filling out the Scion Life Wheel, coming down and grabbing Soul of Steel for the massive defensive bonus of +1 to all maximum elemental resistances, Bloodless for more life, and the 2 regular jewel sockets. Finally, I would recommend grabbing the large cluster jewel socket here to play around with, since we root right past it anyway. This build has around 13 points free for you to play with up to level 90, however some notables I would personally recommend are Thaumophage in your large jewel for a 10% chance to hinder enemies on hit, which is a 30% less movement speed penalty to enemies, very huge defensive bonus. And also Mindfulness in your small jewel socket for a massive 80% increased mana regeneration rate while stationary, which will allow you to drop a mana flask if you like. These are entirely up to you though, of course, so pick with the notables you want or need depending on your gear. If not, feel free to spend the remaining points however you like. A tip while leveling is to grab the 230 dexterity nodes for gear requirements. You can unspec out of these at a later date when you get it on your other items. For bandits, kill all of the bandits for an extra 2 skill points. Next, let's look at the Ascendancy. For Ascendancy, we choose Chieftain, and in normal lab grab Mahu's Flames Advance to convert the other 50% of our physical damage to fire, and get a large damage bonus. In Cruel, take Hinakura Death's Fury, so we leech 1% of our damage as life, and cover enemies in ash for a massive 20% more damage. Then in Merciless Lab, grab Tessalio's Cleansing Water for fire resistance, life regeneration, and 50% increased life recovery rate if you've taken a hit of physical or fire damage recently. In Uber Lab, take Arangui's Moon Presence for 16% more fire damage taken by enemies near your totems. We will be using a decoy totem for safety in this build, but if you want a tankier version, you could also go for Tauhao's Forest Strength for endurance charge generation. Now to look at the gear and links. Our gear consists of some very average self-found rares. I have not been able to meta or even fossil craft any of my items because I have not had that great crafting RNG this league in SSF. However, we are using the Tabula Rasa unique body armor for gem flexibility. In it, we have socketed Blade Blast, linked with added fire damage, fire penetration, elemental focus, controlled destruction, and concentrated effect, which you can swap for increased area of effect for clearing packs. You can basically use any rare or unique body armor of your choice here. I just opted for this as an easy 6-link option at League start. Our rare items are focused on getting as much dexterity, life, and resistances as possible. In our gloves, we have a level 3 cast while damage taken setup, triggering a level 8 wave of conviction, linked with curse on hit and flammability to strip enemy fire resistance and apply fire exposure as well. This is useful to dramatically lower rare and unique enemy resistances automatically. The boot slot is another rare with dexterity, life, resistances, and movement speed, which is important for the build to improve smoothness. In it, we have linked Blade Fall with Spell Echo, Spell Cascade, and Combustion support. This is not for damaging purposes, but it is how we apply our blades under enemies for detonation. Combustion serves us by stripping another 19% off of enemy fire resistances. Our helmet is another slot for life and resistances. Ideally, I would be using a fossil crafted helmet with the mod nearby enemies have -9 to fire resistances, but I have not been able to craft one yet. In it, I have a level 8 cast when damage taken setup with a level 14 Vile Molten Shell, level 20 Vile Righteous Fire, and the increased duration support gem for huge defensive and offensive bonuses when you need them most. My rings are both unset rings that have more life, dexterity, and resist on them. In them, we have Decoy Totem for safety and more damage granted by our Ascendancy, and the Flesh and Stone Aura for blinding all nearby enemies while in Sand Stance. A huge defensive bonus, as blinded enemies have 50% less chance to hit you. Our amulet is a Jade Amulet for the dexterity. It grants us resistances and spell damage. I would prefer some life instead, but I wasn't that lucky. We have Anointed Arsonist for 2 Verdant and 1 Azure Oil for the fire damage and life regeneration it grants. Though this is entirely up to you depending on which oils you have access to, another solid option is Inexorable if you can afford it. Our belt is a Stygian Vise with as much life and resistances as possible. Ideally, if you can craft one with the Essence of Delirium mod, plus 50 to Chaos resistance during any flask effect, that will just about cap your Chaos resist. I was unlucky in my single attempt. The joys of solo Self-Found. The jewel in it just has life and onslaught on kill, but you can pretty much use whatever you like here as well. Anyways, next up is our shield. We use a rare shield with armor and a massive amount of life. I've also crafted the chance to deal double damage for a divine orb, but it is not necessary by any means. We place our auras in here, Anger, Herald of Ash, and a low level Clarity for some mana regen. Finally, weapon choice is up to you. You could opt to run a staff, dagger, or a wand or two. It's entirely up to you. Just get as much spell damage as possible. You could also try to get the Shaper's mod, percent physical damage gained as extra fire damage, but that wasn't possible for me at this early stage of the league. In it, I have linked Flame Dash, a low-level Arcane Surge, and the new support gem Second Wind for cooldown recovery and +1 uses of Flame Dash. We keep Arcane Surge at a low level to allow every single use of Flame Dash to proc it, and give us 13% more spell damage to our other spells, some cast speed, and mana regen too. For flasks, we use a Seething Divine Life Flask of Staunching, a Sulphur Flask of Iron Skin, a Granite Flask of Heat, a Quicksilver Flask of Adrenaline, and an Amethyst Flask of Warding for chaos resistance and curse removal. Our Pantheon choices for Major God is Soul of Lunaris. This is for reduced physical damage taken for each nearby enemy, as well as movement speed for each nearby enemy. We also use the Minor God Soul of Rislatha for flask charges gained every 3 seconds, a massive help for longer boss fights. This character was an incredibly fun league starter, and it is viable for both softcore and hardcore, SSF or Trade League. With better gear investment and more levels, this character will blast enemies harder than Ash Ketchum does to Team Rocket. I hope you can take this character further than I have and really push it to its limits. I'll leave a link to the path of building passive tree below in the video description, so make sure you check it out. And while you're there, check out the link to my Twitch channel and come say hello. If you have any questions or suggestions, then leave them in the comments section down below, or just let me know what kind of build you'd like to see me play next. Anyways guys, that about wraps it up for this video. I hope you all enjoyed it. Please remember to like and subscribe for more Path of Exile content. I'm Podge, and I'll see you in the next video.